Whenever I tell people I'm autistic, the first thing they ask me is it diagnosed? Why? Because of people like my sister-in-law. Oh sorry. My kid has autism. She wants something to be wrong with him. Except when she took him to be diagnosed, they said he wasn't. She just wants something to blame his behavior on besides her parenting. Because in recent years some neurological disorders have been romanticized by teenagers who will then self-diagnose themselves with all sorts of disorders. So yes, unfortunately some people do make it up for attention, or rather make it up to seem more unique. Because some people think they have autism, so they say they have it. My kid was diagnosed autistic in their teens. We weren't surprised TBH, but my sister's reaction of, "Are you sure? He has friends, doesn't he?" pretty much sums up a lot of people's perceptions of ASD. We didn't really tell anyone really due to the age of our kid at the time. We figured it's his information to share or not share. I told my sister because we are close and wish I hadn't bothered TBH. I'm also 24 and autistic. I have a diagnosis. But unlike a lot of people who are saying that they are autistic when they aren't, I genuinely didn't think I was until I got diagnosed. I was diagnosed at 16, which is quite late. But as I am high functioning, I slipped through the net. In retrospect, it was really clear, but it wasn't ever addressed, and only when my psychologist suggested it did I think it. But it is relatively light, that's why they don't see it. You seem fine to them. Because with ADHD and/or autism there are enough people 1. Self-diagnosing, 2. Faking, that it causes problems for the rest of us. The reason they ask, self-diagnosis happens. And while with autism many autistic people are perfectly capable of determining that they are autistic, people are overly concerned about the possibility of TikTok moms and Tumblr kids self-diagnosing for attention. The reason this is stupid. Again, it's not super hard to figure out if you're autistic once presented with the facts on the matter. Self-diag is a much smaller problem than people like to pretend, especially for autism, which doesn't exactly have procedures or medications that you get for a diagnosis. Furthermore, many people with autism will intentionally never seek diagnosis because in many supposedly first world countries that diagnosis doesn't help you at all and can be used to restrict your human and reproductive rights. When people ask if I'm diagnosed, I explain the lattermost part to explain why I am not and will never be diagnosed. If they still don't believe me, they're not really my concern. Either they're in a position of power and I can go to their superior about their behavior, or they're not, and the only categorization I need to do is not worth being around. If someone can't understand why I would choose not to let the medical system potentially have control over my rights in the modern year, that's their own problem. To make a long story short, I, 20F, was diagnosed with a few things including ADHD and autism. My mom, 47F, doesn't believe in mental issues like that and claims I made it up to get pity from other. I confronted my mom and she started to cry, saying I'm making this up to make her feel like a bad parent and won't believe me unless I hand her papers with the diagnosis. So, I took my younger brother, 9M, against her wishes to a psych, and they confirmed he has the same ADHD form I do but no autistic. We told my older brother, 24M, to get tested. Shocker. Same ADHD. We all three handed my mom papers and she cried so hard, saying, "You will go so far to make me feel like I did something wrong." If it makes you feel better, I have high-functioning Asperger's. 99% of the time the general response is, "No offense." But you don't act like you have a disability. They ask and attempt to discredit because they have a skewed idea of what autism is. People don't know it's a spectrum, and if you don't fit the exact criteria they associate with autism, they don't believe you. Fuck those people. Why do you tell people? Because TikTok has convinced everyone they have autism or ADHD. It's very popular to self-diagnose as autistic these days using online quizzes and tests. Another way to prove how unique and special some thinks they are. Answer. With more information and better understanding out there in the public sphere about neurodiversity, a lot of people are self-diagnosing. I'd say there's 2 reasons for this. It's easier than getting a formal diagnosis, and often the weight or cost of a formal diagnosis is prohibitive. When I was in my 20s, a lot of my friends claimed, without diagnosis, that they had autoimmune disorders or a gluten intolerance. I'm not sure why people do this, but these days it seems like claiming neurodivergence is the new gluten allergy. Because the spectrum of people claiming to have a condition is as diverse as ASD. You are actually formally diagnosed. Someone might not be diagnosed, but have researched it because they relate to the issues someone with ADHD or whatever have. Sometimes people just casually diagnose their friends. Sarah has been pretty depressed ever since the breakup. How do you know? You're not a psychologist. It doesn't take a psychologist to see that she's miserable. Some people will just use the term to describe a short-term mood. Sometimes I'll jokingly claim I have OCD when I'm cleaning around the house, but I'm not actually obsessed and compelled to do anything. Dumb teens will take that last to the extreme. When I was in high school, I didn't dare mention autism because people would sling that word as an insult constantly. You won't believe what the retard did this time. Autistic screeching intensifies. Quote, I usually just tell them after I have a highly autistic moment and they just go, "Ah." It's becoming more common, so I think people may think seemingly neurotypical people are fabricating the diagnosis, self-diagnosing. In reality, we are just much more aware of and informed about the autism spectrum now than we have ever been before. I think it's a tricky topic. A fair example could be made for someone with depression. Someone diagnosed and on meds may feel annoyed when someone undiagnosed harps on about their undiagnosed depression. Then again, if you know, you know. Hope you chaps are having a great Friday.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.